Hi, Mark Reedy here. In this video I'm going to show you how the fuel log works in TATEMS. So as we're looking here at the screen, when you first start TATEMS up, it's just going to show you 1 month's worth of data. Now we're looking at version 4.6.19 released June 17th, 2015. So the features in here are going to be relevant for that version. Some of this stuff was available on a few versions earlier, so you may have most of this. On the next version, 4.7, this entry date column is going to be moved over to the left, and it's going to be the first column, so you'll be starting off by entering the date first. Alright, that's the only difference upcoming as far as the fuel log goes. So when you first start TATEMS up, you have 1 month going back in time. It's going to show you from the current date that you open TATEMS up at and go back 1 month from that date. I've reset the dates here just to show you this database is a little bit older. It's from 2014, but it's a database that has some information in it. So I wanted to show you some of what's going on here. If I were to go and basically choose in this drop down a vendor, so this is a fuel station vendor, which I'll just choose one here. What it does, it grabs the last highest current odometer reading and enters it in there as your beginning odometer reading. And then you're going to put in whatever the odometer reading is at the time of this fill up. So for this example, I'm just going to go ahead and put 734 or 500, we'll say, right? And now I hit tab, and it asks me if I want to add that odometer reading to the update odometer and hours section for this equipment. So yes, I want to do that so that it shows up here at the top and on the equipment summary screen, and it's utilized for other reporting as well if you do that. So I'm going to say yes to that, and you can have that set up to automatically do that update from other tabs underneath preferences. If you go to tools and preferences, you can have it automatically up here at the top left. Stop asking you to update the current odometer reading from other tabs, and then always update current odometer reading from other tabs. And so the next field here is the drop-down list is the state that the fuel was purchased in. So you can choose that state there, and then you can report on all your fuel purchases in specific states in the future. And then you'll see here how this is green on this drop down here. Well, that means that there is an underlying beginning and ending state mileages for that particular fuel log entry. So even if you filled up in Arizona, for example, but you traveled a certain amount of miles in other states, if we double click on this drop down, it'll pop up and show us beginning and ending mileages for each state or province. So what I can do here is reduce this back down, so instead of having the whole thing be in Arizona, we could say we went say 100 miles in Arizona, and that'll automatically adjust this ending odometer down, and we see we have 138 miles left to go. So I could well, what I'll do here is I'm going to choose a new state. So I'm going to say California, for example, and then I'm going to grab this ending odometer reading from Arizona, bring it down into California, and then I'll just put in this remaining mileage here of 138, and that'll update that field. So now we have a remaining mileage on this particular fuel up of 0 miles for this particular fuel log entry. So if I close that now, you'll see that turns that one green as well. If we go back to one of these older ones, if I double click on that, you can see they traveled in Oklahoma on that one. And if I close that, if I update that, Oklahoma on that one. So that just gives you an indication of what that is. This red one, these red highlights over here, means that it was a duplicate entry. Now, to create a duplicate entry, if you needed to do that for some reason, it'll ask you it's letting you know that you're about to enter a duplicate entry, and ask you if that's really what you want to do. If you say yeah, then it's going to ask you to put in your name, and it's going to capture the computer name that it was done with. This particular entries were found during the update from an older version of TATEMS before we had this feature where it turned red and warned you, and it'll just highlight these in red on your update if you don't have those. So for example, if I were to change this entry here, or say this entry here to be the same as this entry here, so if I copy that and paste that in there, and it tells me the meter reading was already entered. Are you sure you want to enter this duplicate meter reading? If I say yes to that, then I enter my name, click OK, and you can see the duplicate odometer reading was entered on this day by this computer name. Computer name is Shop, and by this person named Mark. Okay, so that's how that works. I'm going to go ahead and update that and change that back to the proper reading. And so now we'll just put in the number of gallons that was used on this particular fuel up. So we'll just say 30 gallons, for example. And then we have our price per gallon. We'll just say 3.50. And then on the cost over here, if this doesn't calculate exactly the way your fuel receipt showed, you can change this. You can override this to update and put the cost in there. Once you do that, then if you go back and change these numbers here, it's not going to update this number here. Okay, so so for example, if I said, oh, it wasn't 105, it was 105.06 or something like that, I can hit tab there, and now if I go back over here and change this number of gallons to 31 and hit tab, or move to a new record, it doesn't update my cost in there. It's not going to override that cost once I've overridden what was in there with an actual cost. If it was different from the multiplication that was put in there because of possible digits off to the right. And so that's how that works. Now the show all dates, sometimes you can, if you have a misentry, say you had somebody put a date in that was really low. I've seen cases where instead of putting in 2015, somebody might have put in 215, for example, something like that. And then later on, when they go to open up TATEMS and they they can't find a specific entry, they're going, why is it showing, this mileage as the next available mileage, but I don't see that particular entry? Well, it's because the date range here is not going back to 2015. So if you click on show all dates, and then when you do that, you can sort by date, and you could also sort by odometer reading. If you had a super high odometer reading that you couldn't find, you could sort it that way as well. And then you could scroll and you could find that particular entry and fix it. All right. And then just the PO number is just an internal reference for however you want to use that. You can enter in there whatever data you want there. Down below, this stuff is updated automatically whenever you change the date range. Here, it's going to change whatever the criteria was. It's going to change whatever it's displaying on these left columns, and over on the right columns, it'll show you overall for this piece of equipment for all time. Now, if you want to track your fuel by an hours meter rather than an odometer, you can click this little checkbox here. It'll transfer all the readings and all your updates in the future will be based upon hours meters. You can see the heading at the top change to hours meter, and so that's how you would track a piece of equipment in the fuel log that's based upon an hours meter, like a piece of heavy equipment or a forklift or something like that. And then you can print off this particular printout here. If I click on print here, it's going to show me the entire fuel log. Actually, it's going to show me the date range that I've selected here. So this is 7/1 to 7/31. You can see we've got Oops, I got all dates here. Let me update the date criteria. Shrink that back down. Okay, so now we're looking at 7/1 to 7/31, which has just got 16 entries. Now if I click print, it's just going to show me those 16 entries for whatever that criteria was, and it's going to show me those same stats down below. And then if you ever need to force an update, like say you've made a change up here, but you're not seeing it down below, you can click on this update button and that'll force an update for these figures here. And if you want to see all the duplicates that are been entered for a piece of equipment so that you can go and find them, you can click here and that'll show you all the duplicates. Actually, it'll show you all the duplicates for every piece of equipment in your fleet. So if you've got a lot of duplicate odometer entries, you can print that out, then you can go and find them and fix them or delete those if you need to. Alright, and so also now to print out reports based upon the fuel log, there's a couple of places you can go. One of them is up here underneath reports. All equipment reports is the cost per mile per hour report. So if we click on that, you can see here we can choose fuel log as one of the criteria. So on the fuel, and basically though what it's going to do is it's going to look at the date range, beginning and ending dates that you choose, and it's going to look at the overall gallons and cost associated with everything that fell within that date range. But it's going to take the odometer readings from the equipment itself. So if your odometer readings are higher or lower in the equipment, I'll show you just an example here. Okay, so now we can see the beginning and ending odometer readings. We had one on 7/1/2014 and another one on 7/18/2014, and you can see the actual odometer readings. Or if it was an hours meter, you can see the hours meter readings here. Alright, and so you can see how that was updated from that entry I just made for 8/25/2015. So then you're going to see your miles traveled, and that miles traveled is going to be on the equipment itself. That's going to show you your total fuel and costs, and then over here you're going to see your cost per mile or your cost per hour. So cost per mile / kilometer or cost per hour. Alright, so let me close that out. And okay, so let's go back over to reports, more reports, and then if we go to fuel log here under report type, we've got about 6 reports that are available to you. So you can see grouped by vendor and equipment. Okay, so on this report we have all equipment grouped by vendor and by equipment. So I'm going to look at a range of equipment from 60 to 63 for this date range 7/1/2014 through 7/15/2014. I'll click preview there, and we can see here that this piece of equipment is being tracked by the miles meter, not by an hours meter. Okay, and then we can see here is the vendor name. Then they just have it set up as no fuel or tow boys. And then we have the piece of equipment. And then if we scroll down, we can see a little bit more information. And we see our totals for that equipment for that vendor. The vendor here is Petro, and so you can see the totals there for this date range for that vendor for that piece of equipment in that date range. Alright, so then basically the other reports are very similar. This one here is just going to show you the equipment itself. So it's going to show you all the entries for each piece of equipment. And we'll close that. And then we'll look at this one is just grouped by vendor. So this is going to give you all the vendor totals, and then see how it shows you a vendor, and then it shows you each piece of equipment inside that vendor. And it gives you grand totals down here for the report. And then grouped by state or province. This one here is going to show you the beginning and ending miles and so forth inside each state or province. So we click there, and we can see here Oklahoma, and we see Louisiana on these two. So beginning and ending miles, and we see the equipment number over here. So that's how that one works. And then we have the grouped by equipment by state or province. So this one here is going to show you the piece of equipment and then the states or provinces that they traveled in, and the beginning and ending odometer readings and the total miles or kilometers traveled. And then this one here is going to show you the total fuel purchases for a state or province. And we're going to look at the 08, 01 to 015 through 08, 25 to 015. And we'll look at that. Okay, so now we can see fuel purchased in Arizona, the gallons, or the price per gallon rather, how many gallons, and the total cost. So that's how that report works. And I think that's about it for Fuel Log. And thanks for watching. Have a good one. Take care.